Puerto de la Cruz en Flor, or Puerto de la Cruz in Bloom, is celebrated every other year. This year it was celebrated on the 21st until the 27th of October 2024, and as part of an incentive by the local tourism office, we joined local tour guide Ramon on a free tour around Puerto de la Cruz, visiting various gardens and places of interest to celebrate this wonderful week of Puerto en Flor.
Okay, first, welcome to this guided walk of Puerto squares and gardens. Today is in English, and on next Saturday will be in Spanish. Right. And first, I introduce myself. My name is Ramon, and I cooperate with the tourism center since I retired on an altruistic basis, just to help them. And today we start at the Anglican Church, then we go to the front of the Taoro Park, then we come back and we go down to Sitio Litre. Sitio Litre, the private garden. We have a stop there for a coffee break. Then we go down into the old town. We'll finish at Plaza del Charco. Right. I will tell you something about the history of this town and about the gardens and plazas. And the main thing is that we enjoy it. So, let us start. We are here in front of this beautiful Anglican church. And there are many churches like this in England, in Scotland, in Ireland, but not in Spain. In Spain, this is something very strange. And we have to ask ourselves, why? Why is this Anglican church here in Tenerife, a Catholic island? Why was it built here? Now, the reason is that in the 19th century, there were many British residents in Tenerife, and they held Anglican services in private houses. In the Anglican Church, you don't say mass, you say service, right? So they held Anglican services in private houses, usually the Vice Consul's house, where nowadays are the Brothers of the White Cross, Hermanos de la Cruz Blanca. That used to be the British Vice Consul house, and Anglican services were held there. But there were so many of them that they wanted to build a church. Now, at the time, the Gran Hotel Taoro was also being built, and the Gran Hotel Taoro owned this whole place. In fact, this was the garden of the hotel, and they thought it would be a good idea to donate a plot of land to these people who wanted to build an Anglican church, and the church would be inevitably also an attraction for the hotel. So that is what they did. They donated a big plot of land. They were very generous to build the church and the parsonage. They could do that because they had 100,000 square meters of garden. You have to imagine, in the 19th century, all this hill was the garden of Gran Hotel Taoro. So they donated the plot and said, you can build your church, but there is one condition. I always ask, there is something missing here. Yeah? What is missing here? No.
Graveyard.
What is there? Something missing?
Graveyard.
Huh?
The graveyard?
The graveyard, of course. Graveyard. Cemetery. In England or in Scotland, around the church there is always a cemetery. But the hotel said, no, you cannot have a cemetery. This is a hotel. So you can have the church, but you cannot have the cemetery. And that is actually written in the contract. I've read it, I've read the contract, and it is clearly written no cemetery, and nothing that could trouble the peace of the guests of the hotel. But they didn't mind, because there was already an English cemetery downtown. This town has the first English or Protestant cemetery in Spain and the first Anglican or Protestant church in Spain. So they built the church, All Saints Church. Beautiful building, new Gothic style. At the time, the Canary Island belonged to the Diocese of Sierra Leone in Africa. So they asked permission to the Bishop of Sierra Leone to build the church. The Bishop came over, and the Bishop gave permission to build 3 churches, not 1 but 3. This one, All Saints here, another Anglican church in Santa Cruz, St. George, and another one in Las Palmas, Trinity. This was going to be the largest and the first one. The one in Santa Cruz, St. George, is a copy of this one, smaller. It was not a success because there were not enough British residents there. So they gave it to the Catholic Church. So it is now a Catholic church. Right. And the one in Las Palmas is still in operation, but it's a white building, it's not as beautiful as this one. Right. So now we know why the church was built. And okay. I have to say that the church in the end never fulfilled the contract, because now they have a place there where they have the ashes. But the Taoro company no longer exists, so nobody can complain. Right, so there is no cemetery here, but we have this funny thing here. And these people were very clever. They said in 120 years, the fellow called Ramon will come here and will stand up here and will talk to the people. What is this for?
Horses.
Horses.
Get on the horse.
Get on a
Get
horse.
on a horse.
To mount and dismount from horses. We are talking about the 19th century. No cars there. So this was for mounting and not for me. Anyway, so we now go around the church. We can't go in, it is closed. It has 3 naves, the one in the middle taller than the other 2, and seen from above it's like a cross. Right. So we go around the church to see the parsonage and to see the foundation stone. Okay, we the glory of God and in memory of Walter Long Boreham. This stone was laid May the 7th, 1890. So we have the date here. And who was this man? Was someone who gave a lot of money to the church to build the church. Remember, the plot of land was donated by the hotel, but they had to collect a lot of money to build the church. It actually cost £2,000 at the time. And they also built the parsonage, colonial, Spanish colonial style, with a big porch. And the hotel also managed to get another plot of land outside the property to build an English library. The plot of the English library was not donated by the hotel, by somebody else. But the hotel persuaded this man to donate the plot. So we have the Anglican Church and the English library, which in fact became 2 more attractions of the Gran Hotel Taoro. In the publicity, in the publicity of Gran Hotel Taoro, you can read, and there is also an Anglican church and an English library nearby, near the hotel. Okay, so the church and the library are still in operation. The Gran Hotel no longer there, although they are renovating it again. But these two institutions are still in operation, and they work with volunteers. Most of the people who work here are volunteers, right? And they're still in good order. Now we go to the front of the Taoro Park. The name of that garden is called Gardens of Atalaya, the watchtower. We go there, where I will explain the history of the town and the history of Gran Hotel Taoro. Okay, so we move to our next stop. We'll have to walk a little bit today, but I can see that you are all fit, so no problem. Okay, so here we are, Jardines de la Atalaya, Watchtower Garden. And in front of us is Puerto de la Cruz. Now, the island was conquered at the end of the 15th century, and in 1502 there were already people living here. But this was not the main place. The main place was La Rotava. La Rotava was the main village at the time, and this was just the port of Orotava. The official name of the place was Puerto de la Rotava. So you have Puerto de la Rotava and La Rotava. And this distribution can be found many times on this island and on other islands. You have Guimar, Puertito de Guimar. You have Arona, Los Cristianos. You have La Laguna, Santa Cruz. La Laguna was the main town. Santa Cruz was just the port of La Laguna. No more, right? So this was Port Orotava. And the main port was a little bit further in Garachico. Garachico was a much better port because it was a little bay. Unfortunately, that bay was destroyed by the volcanic eruption in 1706. But here, there was a port, not what it is today, but where the castle is. In fact, that's why the castle is there. Close to the castle was another little bay at the mouth of the Barranco San Felipe. That was the old port, the original port of Orotava, right? As years passed by, when there was a lot of rain, when there was a big storm, stone and sand came down the Barranco, and eventually the port was gone. The bay was gone. So that is the old port and this is the new port. Okay. Now, Port Orotava soon became very important because from here they could export the local product, first sugar and then wine. And they could import everything because everything was needed on the island. Textile, furniture, books, anything. So it was a very good business and it attracted many foreign merchants, mainly British merchants. That is why already in the 16th and 17th century there were British merchants here. And that is why the English cemetery is there. Also many Irish people came, many Irish merchants. Because in the 17th and 18th century there was the persecution of Irish Catholics by the Anglican English. And mainly under Cromwell. And they reckon that 50,000 Irish people left. That is a lot of people. And most of them came to Spain, because Spain was a Catholic country that welcomed them. And these people can be divided into three groups. Those who joined the Spanish army to fight the English, those who joined the Spanish church, and the merchants. And the merchants came to two places, which were the best places for business in those days: Puerto Ottawa and Jerez de la Frontera. From these two places, they could control the wine business. In Jerez, the main wines are called Terry, St. Patrick, very, very Irish name. And many Irish merchants came here. So, the town became more and more important. In fact, 1651, King Philip IV of Spain said Port Ottawa was the key to Tenerife, because the port is very important, and it could have an independent mayor, although it still belonged to Lord Ottawa. Right? But the king said, this town, this port is the key to Tenerife. That's why in the coat of arms, of Puerto de la Cruz, you can see the sea and the key. Right. So, as I say, first, the main product was sugar, but soon they found out that it was much better to produce sugar in the Caribbean and in America. So they stopped producing sugar here, but they went on with wine, Canarian wine. It is not the wine we know today. It was a white, sweet wine called Mamsi, in Spanish Malvasia, right? And millions of liters was exported to Europe, mainly to England, as it is, you can read in many English books by Shakespeare or by Keats, by many authors, about people drinking Canary wine. But nothing lasts forever. The sugar business was born, and in time the wine business was not so good, because there was a lot of competition from Porto. But they found another good business, the cochineal. The cochineal is an insect that grows in the prickly pear, la cochinilla, el higo pico. Right, so this cochineal, this insect, can be collected, and through a process it can be made into a dye, to dye color, to dye the clothes, right? And it was a wonderful business, and it needed a lot of people. It was very good for the island. In fact, many owners of farm removed vine to plant the opuntia plant. That's why there are many opuntia or prickly pears all over the island. It was a wonderful business, until an Englishman found a chemical product that could do the same thing much cheaper, anilina, and the business collapsed, and that was horrible for the island. It was horrible. That's why thousands of people from Tenerife had to migrate to America. And it was very bad for the owners of the land. They had the land, but they had no money. So they really needed a good business soon. And they realized that there was a wonderful business that they had not seen before. And that was tourism. Because the sailors and the people who came here, when they went back to Europe, they said, oh, in Tenerife, the climate is wonderful. It's very good for people with TB, tuberculosis. So these people, called invalids, coming here. And that was the start of the tourism business in the 18th and 19th century. People who suffered from lung disease. And when they came here and to other places like Madeira, they came here as well. But we were very lucky because someone called William Wilde, the father of Oscar Wilde, who was a doctor to the Queen Victoria. He went to Madeira, he came here and said, Madeira is wonderful, but Tenerife is much better because there is less rain. So imagine, very good recommendation. So many people came here. So in 1886, the rich people of the island formed a company called Hoteles y Sanatorios del Valle de la Orotava, and they selected the 4 big houses in town and turned them into hotels. The main one was the Gran Hotel Orotava, also called Martianes. The Marquesa, that was already a hotel, the Monopole, and the Bella Vista, which is now, no, Buena Vista, which is now a care home for elderly women. So these four hotels, 1886, and they were a big success, a very big success. So the owners got together and said, we need more hotel room. We have to build a big hotel. So they made a new company called the Taoro Hotel Company, and they built the Gran Hotel Taoro. The Gran Hotel Taoro was the first Gran Hotel in Spain. It was opened in 1890, and there was nothing like that in the Canary Island or in Spain. Here it was the largest building. It looked like a palace. It was built by French architect, Adolphe Bouquet. And it was a beautiful hotel, and it had huge garden, 100,000 square meters, 12,000 trees. The garden was the main attraction of the hotel. It was a hotel, but it was also a sanatorium. It had a permanent doctor and permanent nurses. It had 250 beds. Most of the rooms were single rooms because they were for invalids, and a few bathrooms, and something new, electric light, and hot and cold water. Wonderful, wonderful. The first Grand Hotel in Spain, Gran Hotel Taoro. The hotel was a big success, but it was not a very good business because they were too ambitious. They had a capital of 500,000 pesetas, and at the end it cost them 1 million pesetas. So no matter how much money the hotel produced, they always needed more. So in 1907, they rented the hotel to a German company. By the way, when the hotel was opened, the official name was Gran Hotel Taoro, but for commercial purposes, it was known as the English Grand Hotel. In publicity, it was known as the English Grand Hotel. And although this was already called Puerto de la Cruz, in publicity you can read Porto Rotava. So, as I say, in 1907 they rented to a German company. And this German company changed the name of the hotel to Gran Hotel Humboldt. Then, at the First World War, relations between the British shareholders and the German shareholders were not very good. So they recovered the hotel again and called it again Gran Hotel Taoro. Right. In 1927, Agatha Christie came here with her daughter and secretary, and this was the best hotel at the time in this area. So there were kings and writers and artists. But the golden age of the hotel finished in 1929. First there was a fire, the hotel was destroyed, and then there were no more invalids, because now there was penicillin. So, and the new travelers didn't want to be with people in wheelchair. So the hotel went on until 1950, when the local government, the Cabildo, bought the hotel. And what they did in 1950 was practically destroy it and build a new building. They added more floors. And it's the old building that used to be here. So the first Gran Hotel was practically destroyed in 1950. And then it was in operation until 75, I think. And then it was turned into a casino, but at the end they had to close it. And now it is again being rebuilt by the Cabildo and the hotel company. So that is briefly the history of Gran Hotel Taoro. Right.
We draw towards the end now of the first part of a two-part video series. If you'd like to visit any of the places shown in this video, then please do look in the description below, because we have included links to the locations so you yourself can find them and enjoy them as we have done. So we walk down now through the Parque Atalaya, and this is where part 1 ends. For part 2, be sure to join us as we visit the beautiful gardens of the Sitio Litre, and there we stop off also for a cup of coffee in the wonderful Cafe Orquídea. From there, we will head down towards the Hotel Martianes. We pass then through to the main church square in the centre of town. We pop into the Hotel Marquesa, one of the oldest hotels in Puerto de la Cruz, to have a little look around there. And then we make our way to the Dr. Victor Perez Square. From there, we move down into the Plaza del Charco, the main square of Puerto de la Cruz. And we finally finish our little walking tour at the Custom House in the port of Puerto.